I'm Patrick Murphy Racy, Sony Artisan, and I wanted to kind of share with you what's in my bag at a typical basketball game. My first choice of camera is always virtually the A9. The A9 is just an awesome way to work. It's got uber fast autofocus, and I just love using it. It feels right in my hand. It's got great back button focus buttons here, which I use all the time, and it's nice and lightweight, and it just always works. My A9s are always set up the same way. On the back of the camera, the AF on button is the only way to activate autofocus. I remove that function from the shutter release button. And then over here, the AEL button is always set to IAF. And surprisingly, I can use IAF on a very regular basis throughout a basketball game, especially shooting the coaches, the players during free throws, and even the point guard driving up the court from the other side of the court with a long lens. I can really rely upon IAF to just nail sharp focus on the eyeball, which is really, really a treat because I've never been able to do that before. I always shoot basketball on strobes. I don't use available light very often at all. It's almost always going to be lit. So up in the catwalk above the court, I've got 4 Elinchrom 500 watt-second units, and I trigger these with the Pocket Wizard, which is kind of the only game in town for really professionals. All use Pocket Wizards around the world, really. They just work always really, really well, and they don't false too often. They don't trip when they're not supposed to, and they always shoot when you need it. So it's really good stuff. My lenses of choice for basketball are very simple. I use the 24 to 105G, which is a really neat, super versatile lens. You don't always get to pick where you get to sit at a game, so sometimes you're like stuffed up under the goal, which is great for the sort of the 24 to 50 range. Sometimes you get stuck way out at the end by the sideline, in between the sideline and the three-point line, where the three-point line hits the baseline, and that's ideal for the 105 to 70 range. So no matter where you are on the court, you get sort of an optimum look at what you're doing in hoops, which is great. The other lens I use is the 100 to 400 G Master lens for basketball. On strobes, this is phenomenal. I just literally set it for 5.6, so no matter where I'm at, it's the same exposure. And generally, I sit between 400 and 300 for men's basketball, and I will kind of stay 350 to 400 range for women's basketball. They're a little bit shorter, and I find that I can still get a little tighter. I actually shoot down court with a 400 quite often for women's ball. Men's ball is a little bit faster, and sometimes you can mess yourself up by shooting too tight. So I kind of back off a little bit, and then I also employ a remote camera, and my preference for remote camera right now, especially on strobes, is the new A7R3. There's a couple reasons for this. When I use the A7R3 on a post remote or on the floor, one of the cool lenses to use is this 12 to 24G because it's so freaking wide. You can shoot much wider perspective remote positions and then literally just crop into whatever you want later. When you have all the real estate of a 42 megapixel camera, you have total freedom really to crop into whatever you want. And the fact that this is very small and lightweight and not terribly expensive is a great benefit because you really, when you're doing remotes, you want to be as small as possible. And so the A7R3 is tiny compared to like a 1DX or a D5. And the lens being really, really small and compact and being able to zoom is a really fantastic attribute of that combination. One thing you'll notice is that all my cameras that I'm shooting with in my hands, my two A9s, they always have vertical grip on them. And in basketball, you are mostly shooting vertical because it's a vertical sport. And it's really nice to have your back button focus buttons right here and then be able to fire right here. If you don't have a vertical grip, your elbow is up, and at a bigger game, you're blocking the view of someone else that's sitting to your right, and it's very frustrating. People get really upset when they are trying to shoot the game through your elbow. And so the vertical grips are essential for basketball photography. One other thing I want to point out is that my vertical grips, while they hold 2 batteries, I only usually use one. It's silly to use two batteries in a grip because it just adds weight that's unnecessary. And even though the cameras are already super lightweight, I like to carry as little as possible. Plus, I'm getting old. So it's really nice just to be able to go, and I could probably shoot 10 or 12 basketball games in their entirety using strobes and use the same single battery. The battery life on the A9 and the A7R3, this new Z battery is just phenomenal. It's great for sports, and it's also great because when you're using a remote camera, you don't have to go change the battery. When I use the A6500s for remotes, I would often have to change the battery at halftime, and now I can go probably 4 to 5 games without changing the battery, leaving the camera on all the time. So that's a great benefit as well. I've got a couple other things I want to show you. This is something Manfrotto makes called the variable friction arm. A lot of people call this a magic arm, but actually there's a different product that preceded this one that is called a magic arm. The variable friction arm is the one you want for putting remotes up. And it allows you to put the camera in any position and then just lock this arm down really tight and it won't move. And it's really great. So I've got a camera platform here, so the camera goes here wherever I want it. And then on the other end, usually people use a super clamp, but as time has gone on, the NCAA and the NBA both have really started to utilize much more padding on the goal backstops, and it's getting more difficult to find places to mount cameras. And so this is a big clamp. This is a Cupo clamp. This is a 4-inch clamp. I also have a 9-inch clamp, so this goes all the way up to 9 inches. And so this thing is great because no matter what part of the goal it's best for me to attach to, I can kind of size this thing into whatever I need and just crank it down and it's not going to move. And so I use this to attach to the backstop or the post, and then I connect the variable friction arm end goes in there, and then I can adjust it to whatever I want. So basically, my setup is pretty simple. There's one other thing I bring to games. If I want to do a floor remote, I'll use like a cheap off-brand little table tripod like this, and you can literally set this up on the court surface behind the line where the photographers sit, and you can set your camera however you want. And I usually put a piece of tape on each foot, a little piece of gaff tape, and that's all you need. So this is a great low angle. I also use floor plates as well, which gets you even lower. But anyway, these work great. And the last thing I wanted to mention is how do I trigger that remote camera? Most people use Pocket Wizards for that, but I have discovered that the Chinese have really done a great job with very inexpensive remotes. And I love this one. This is made by Pixel. And this thing comes with the Sony cord when you order it. This part sits behind the camera or wherever. You can tape it to something. And then the transmitter is kind of unique because it has this LED. And you can literally wake the camera up, and then when you press it all the way, it turns red. And so you have the same functionality as you do when you're using the camera in your hand. So you can depress part way, wake the camera up so it's ready to fire. And what I do is you can see this tape on my lens shade here. What I do is I tape this thing into this position right here. And this way I'm able to zoom the lens still without any issue. And when I'm shooting down court, I have my left thumb on the remote trigger, and then I'm looking through the camera here, and I'm autofocusing here, and I'm shooting here. So I basically have 360 degrees of coverage by using one single remote camera at the opposite end of the court. So if I get blocked looking down court with a long lens, I can literally just hit my thumb on my left hand and fire the camera at that post remote. But if it looks better to me the way they look back, I can shoot here. And so I'm literally controlling two cameras at the same time throughout the game. At bigger games, I will actually put another remote up and have it on the shorter camera as well. So in that way, even if a referee's in my way during a great play, I can shoot the play anyway in spite of being blocked from where I'm sitting. And so this is kind of a typical Sports Illustrated way to work. And we've been doing this for many years. So As always, I like doing these YouTube videos. The next thing I'm going to kind of show you is what the pictures are from the game that I shot, and then if you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them down below. And last, I'm no longer doing affiliate links. I feel very strongly that it's very important for photographers to support their local photo specialty stores, which there are many throughout the country. And so at the end of the video, I'm going to post a link to go to Alpha Universe, where you can find your local photo retail specialty store. There's not many camera stores left in the way that we once knew them, and it's very important to support your dealers. So please, there's no links here for me anymore, but go straight to that Alpha Universe site whenever you want to buy new gear or whatever, and or get support, because those specialty dealers are specialty dealers for a reason. They actually know what they're selling, and they can help you make decisions about that. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the pictures that are to follow. Four more things I forgot about. Things you don't want to show up to a game without. Number one, gaff tape. I use gray because one of the things you also don't want to forget is a black Sharpie. There's all kinds of reasons to have tape with you. You always need it for something. Keep a lens shade on, or marking something down like exposure, whatever. Third thing you want to remember is most important piece of equipment I have for shooting basketball is a Crazy Creek chair. If you're going to shoot games on a regular basis, and for sure if you're going to shoot a tournament, you've got to help your back stay relaxed. And you can hurt yourself doing this without a Crazy Creek chair. It just gives you lots of lower back support, and actually feels good even after a long day. And last, sometimes the bands at the schools are not very good, so it's really loud. And noise-canceling headphones, or just simply some foam earplugs, are a really good idea. If you're going to shoot a lot of sports, you're going to be around a lot of noise for a long period of time. At the game I shot the other night, they had a double 15-inch speaker right behind me on the court, and that thing was blaring in my head the whole game. But I was wearing my Sony MDX1000X headphones, so not a problem. So anyway, thanks for watching. See you.